All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming, Life Group leaders. I just want to open up by asking you real quickly, what's the mission of our church? We hear it every week. And please don't say worship, connect, and serve, because that's a discipleship process. What's the mission of our church? Reaching you guys say with me, reaching our community with Christ. Yeah. And so when you have a vision statement, when you have a mission statement, you guys know that is to permeate every aspect of the church, right? It's to permeate Sunday school, it's to permeate midweek, it's to permeate preaching and teaching, it's to permeate everything we do, including, what? Our life groups. And so I remember a conversation I had with Bart Johnson, who was our DC here for a year. Remember Bart? Okay, just left a couple months ago. And he and I were having an animated conversation about life group ministry and what you do in life group ministry. And he said, Pastor Dave, what's your vision statement? And I said, reaching our community with Christ. And he said, that's your statement. But what's your vision? What do you want to see happen here in 2 years? I said, well, currently we have about 540 people in worship on a regular Sunday. I want to see us have 750 people in worship in 2018. So in 2 years, to see our attendance increase by 200. So how does that happen? Obviously by the Holy Spirit's power, but can we continue to do what we've always done in every aspect and phase of ministry and expect different results? No. As a matter of fact, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing you've always done, expecting what? Different results. And so what we want to do is kind of reboot our life groups so that they become more what we call mission-minded. Now, many of you have been in life groups for a long, long time. Some of you started life groups over 20 years ago. And the leader of the life group ministry at that time was a guy by the name of Kent Stevens. How many of you remember Kent Stevens? Raise your hand. Okay. Well, Kent, when he launched life group or small group ministry here at Peace, he talked about the open chair. How many of you remember that concept, the open chair? Okay. What was the open chair? What was that about? Go ahead. Okay, a place for Christ to be in your group. That was one purpose. But what was another purpose for the open chair? Yes, sir. Yes! Did y'all hear that? So the open chair was, the group was basically saying, this chair is here because we want this group to what? To grow. We want more people to experience life together, what we have in this group. So I've been remiss, kind of, as your spiritual leader, to kind of dismiss that and say, no, we don't really want our groups to grow. We don't want them to multiply. We don't want people to be incorporated into our groups. No. We want our groups to grow. And we want all of our groups to have what we call an open chair, whereby we're saying we want more people to be a part of this because, as you heard me talk about last week, who dwells in us? Jesus Christ dwells in us. And if Jesus Christ dwells in us, then we see Christ in each other, and that rubs off on us so that we can reach our community with Christ more effectively, but so that others, when they come to our group, can see Jesus in us. So, here's my challenge. When we start our journey group here in just a few months, actually in about a month and a half, I'm going to ask my neighbor Jeff and his wife Jane to join our group. And the reason I want them to join our group is because I want them to see Jesus in our journey group. Why do we want that? Because we want our journey groups to grow, because it's one of the most natural ways for us to reach our community with Christ. So, without any further ado, we have here to talk a little bit about this Dave Runyon, who has been a part of City Unite. His mission really is to unite the city of Arvada in the mission to make Jesus known in this community. I've known Dave for about 7 years. He is a dynamic man of God. He will enlighten us with the Word, and hopefully he'll motivate all of us to be even more so about the Father's business of reaching our community with Christ. So let's welcome Dave.
Thanks, Dave. Can I use this? It's like my podium. I'm not Lutheran. I want to make sure I'm not like doing something to like some sacred part of the service. So, okay, I'm good. Oh, I'm supposed to put money in it. I'm definitely not going to use it then.
It is good to be here today. It's good to be a Peace Lutheran. Sometimes it's hard to see the forest through the trees. And I just want to remind you that this church, this local congregation, has had and is having an incredible impact on our community. And when I sit and spend time with a lot of the local leaders, government, business leaders, and mention this church, everyone knows about Peace Lutheran. And I think that says a lot about the people who have been here for a long time and the people who are here now. So I just want to encourage you to continue to lean in and to do the things you're doing. And then to pray about what's the next step that God wants this congregation to take. What's on God's heart for this group of people? And I spent 10 years as a pastor of a local church. I was at Foothills Community Church up off of 80th and Carr. And I love my time as a pastor. But something happened to me. I basically got obsessed with John 17, with Jesus' prayer for unity, and it set my life on a different path. And as a result of that, I now spend, for the last 6 years, I spend all of my time helping churches work together. We've got about 23 churches here in Arvada that have all decided to stack hands and to think about how we can serve our city together. It's about 180 different churches in the Denver metro area that are involved in pockets like that I've had an opportunity to spend time with. And then, as some of you know, Dave and I and a group of other pastors were part of this amazing thing that God did, where He used our mayor to tell us that maybe the smartest thing that Christians can do in the city is to know their actual neighbors. And as a result of that story, what happened with Dave and I and a few others, I've had the privilege of going around the country and sharing our story about the art of neighboring with a number of churches around from the east to the west coast. And so I spent the last 6 years getting my eyes on a lot of different congregations. And it's been fascinating to drop into different churches and to see what God is doing. And I'm always trying to think about this question of like, I wonder what we could do better. Or I wonder, what is it that the people that do this well, this church thing, what is it that they have in common? You ever thought about that? The healthiest churches in our country, what is it that they all do well? Now, I'm not just talking about necessarily like the biggest churches. I'm saying the healthiest churches for a reason. So I think it's possible to have a really big church and to not be healthy. And so as I get my eyes on all these different churches, and I think to myself, what is it that the best churches have in common? One thing comes screaming off the page of me. The healthiest churches have healthy life groups. Period. It is the central DNA. It is the key ingredient of what it means to have a healthy church. And I think Scripture backs this up. A couple weeks ago, Dave talked about Acts 2. Last week was Acts 4? How long ago was Acts 2? Good. They basically say the same thing. So you just gave the same sermon 2 weeks in a row. That's great. That's right. I like that a lot. Yeah, the reason why we talk about Acts 2 and Acts 4 so much is because it's the blueprint for the early church. And the reason why we talk about the early church so much is because the early church, what happens from about 40 AD to 320, 350 AD, what happens in that 300 and some years is the most explosive growth that we've ever seen in the history of the church. And so people like Dave and I keep looking at the Scripture and going, what in the world happened then? What was it like to be a believer? What did the church look like at that time? And so when the reason why we can't stop talking about Acts 2 and Acts 4 is because we're just looking at this saying, what would it be like if we started to live like this today? Acts 2, so it goes from about 120 believers. Maybe we'll say, let's go big and say in year 40 there's 1,000 believers. By the year 350, there's over 25 million. So every decade, the church grows at about 40% rate. When you think about that, you think about what's going on in our current culture, and you'll understand what drives people like Dave and I, who do this for a living, to keep searching this text. To keep looking at it over and over again and praying and saying, God, when you do something like this now, what would it look like for us to use this as the template for how we're going to do church? And so I'll read it to you again. Acts 2:42, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship and to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on here in this passage. One of the things that's interesting to me is this, is that it says they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They didn't abandon what, if you were here for the first service or you're going to be here for that, they didn't abandon their weekly gathering. They didn't abandon this idea of doing what we're doing right now, coming and worshiping and hearing somebody teach the word. But that's not what made them unique. All of the Jews were doing that at this time. What made them unique is that they broke bread in their homes. They ate together. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to prayer. What made them unique is that they did life together, and they did it in such a radical way that it actually compelled others to be a part of it. The reason why we believe that life groups are so valuable is because when we do life together at a real, deep, sincere way, when we actually give ourselves to studying the Word together, to praying together, to breaking bread, to fellowship, to just having fun together, that's the secret sauce for the church to grow and to be what God wants it to be. And so let's just look at a few of these ingredients real quickly of what it means to have a healthy life group. They do life together. They devote themselves to the teaching, to fellowship, to breaking bread, and to prayer. Now, oftentimes I think we kind of like turn this into some, like, I love quiet times. Okay? I think quiet times are really helpful. Personal devotion is a really helpful thought. I think we should all be doing that. But somehow, over time, I think a lot of us have become so, like, when we start to think about studying the Word, our mind immediately goes to this time of just us and God and the Word together. That's not what it says they did. It says they were together. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to prayer. Every good life group should be a life group in which all of these things are taking place. This is like a really good scorecard for where your life group is doing well and where you might want to improve. Do you pray together? Do you really pray together? Are you in the Word together? Do you have fellowship? Just hang out? Do you laugh together? I've been to Tim and Angie's small group. They invited me over. We're neighbors. They do that part really well. Develop the laugh and hang out together. They're really good at that. And it was great to see the bonds that had developed between them and their friends who they've been doing life with for a number of years. They've watched their kids go through different seasons of life. They watched people die that were around them, close to them. They laughed. They do laugh a lot together. The second thing that we see is that they serve together. They're selling their property or possessions to give to anyone who has need. I think this is one of the things that is the weakest, typically, in North American evangelical mainline churches when it comes to life groups. This is one thing that I think a lot of times gets left off the table. This idea of serving together. I think it's one of the most important things because when we look at the early church, when we look at seasons when the church is at its best, we see that the church is not just proclaiming the gospel, but they're also demonstrating the gospel. When you have those two things going on at the same time, good things happen. But But it's kind of a pain to serve together because you got to actually figure out who you're going to serve. You can't just meet at the same place every single time. That takes a lot of hard work. But this is one of the ingredients of what really healthy, small groups of people do. And, by the way, this is one of the most important things that was going on when the church was growing at this exponential rate. There's a guy named Rodney Stark who wrote a book called The Rise of Christianity. When Rodney wrote this book, he's a scholar, he's a social scientist, he was not a believer. But he was fascinated with what happened during those 300 years. How in the world does this little bitty obscure movement of 120 people end up as the world's dominant religion in only 300 years? And one of the things that Rodney points out is in his theory as a social scientist was not that there was these mass conversions going on. It wasn't just the result of the apostles doing these miracles. That his conclusion was there was this steady growth rate that happened over these 300 years, and that the biggest points of growth happened during times of crisis. When plagues hit communities, he said that they could map, and that the growth of the Christian movement went through the roof. And they went back and started to look at quotes from people who were in government, from early church fathers. What they found was, at that point in time, people didn't understand how disease worked, so a plague would come into a community, and everyone who had the means would flee. They would get out. And they started to see these Christians. Not only would they not run, they would actually start to go and draw towards the people who were sick. So a couple of very interesting things happened as a result of how these Christians acted. The people who lived to survive the plague were so disoriented by the fact that Christians came to their side that they couldn't help but ask questions and become curious and be drawn to this movement. And the people who were believers that lived, their faith was strengthened, it was resolved. And so he goes back and he looks at these two specific plagues and says, this was the key. The height of the growth and the most explosive time of the Christian church was when crisis happened and when Christians actually stepped in and leaned into opportunities to reach others. So what does it look like to do that? With a group of friends that you're hopefully studying the Word with and laughing with and sharing life with. What does it look like? And my prayer would be here at Peace, that these groups would be life-giving places where you're going out and not just talking about the Word, but also demonstrating the Word to the people who live here. And I think that's what the mission of this church is. To make the gospel tangible, make it sticky for people who live here in this community. I think the best place you can do that is through life groups. The third thing that you see, or the fourth or the fifth, however you want to number them, is that these groups of people were places that drew other people to them. It says in verse 47, they were praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people, and the Lord added to them daily those who were being saved. If you kind of think about the group that you're in, or the group that you're going to be in, if this was the scorecard for the health of your group, how well is it going in that area of evangelism? Now, evangelism is a weird word. A lot of times when people like me start talking about evangelism, you just start to go, like all these weird narratives come into your head, right? I'm kind of an introvert. I actually don't have that gift. Right? Anybody that want to share some other excuses? I've got them all down. I set them all to myself. But here's the reality. What we see throughout the Gospels, throughout the history of the early church, is that when Jesus followers are living out the way that they're supposed to live, other people are drawn to it. What does it look like for the life group that you're in to be a place in which God adds to the numbers? I love the empty chair analogy. That picture is this reminder of every single time. What would it look like at the end of your life group to just sit and simply share one name of one person who you're going to be praying for, that maybe God might give you that next small step. I think one of the most intimidating things about evangelism is that I always thought it meant that I needed to like figure out a way to have a conversation about heaven and hell with somebody who didn't know God. I don't know where I got that. Maybe it was myself, maybe it's another person that like put that in my head. But that was like a really intimidating thought for me. Like, I'm just getting to know this person, I've known them for 20 years, and what does it look like to like jump in and like say, hey, like, do you know where you're gonna go if you die? And what I found really helpful is not getting over that fear and having that conversation. It was actually having a different conversation altogether. What I started to learn is that I don't have to lead with that. I don't even have to make that like step 2 or step 3. What does it look like though if you could just be the kind of people that lived in depth with other people and just could simply begin to think about going like a half step below the surface with the people that are around us. By the way, Jesus isn't running around in the New Testament trying to get people to say a prayer. I don't know if you've ever thought about that. Interesting thought, right? My whole life I thought like the goal was like that, you know, someday this person doesn't know God might bow their head and say this prayer. And then it dawned on me, I think Jesus is running around, engaging people, having conversations of depth with them, and he's inviting them to orient their life around the way, like a new way of living. Okay, now that does include like putting your faith in God through his son Jesus Christ. Don't get me wrong. That's like a really important step. But he's going around, he's engaging people in conversations about the heart, about their soul. And he's saying, hey, listen, there's a better way to live. What would it look like? What if evangelism was just simply us being the type of people who live in our neighborhoods, who live at work, and who are looking for opportunities to look at a neighbor or a friend and say, hey, like, what are you learning today or the last few years about parenting? Hey, why'd you end up becoming an architect? Hey, I'm trying to like do this thing, like I didn't get mad at my kid right there because I was trying to do this thing that like, I'm trying to be patient. And I'm trying to orient my life around the way that Jesus talks about living because I actually think that's the best way to live. What if that could be the starting point for us? Because that like, for any of you in this room, does that like lower your anxiety a little bit when you start thinking about evangelism? Does that like take a little bit of the heat off? I mean, most of the people that we're around, most of our friends that don't yet know God, like, they live on the surface with almost everyone in their life. They have their dysfunctional stuff that we all have with our family, and then they have these like surface relationships at work. And for most people, that's it. We sit in these rooms, you may be in a life group, and you may like get tricked to assume that most people have other people that they're living in depth with. Let me tell you something. I know this from building relationships with people who don't yet know God, right in my neighborhood and other places. That's not true. Most people, all they have is right on the surface. And a lot of them are dying for real relationships. Some of them are just like really busy. And they're just like running around and dropping off their kids at different sporting events and like grabbing fast food on the way home and getting their garage door up and getting it down. And like they just want to like detox from that day. And then they want to wake up and do it all over again. So some of the people that you're thinking of, maybe they don't have a thirst for depth right now. They probably do, they might not know it. By the way, I have a lot of grace for that because I lived a lot of my life like I just described right there. But what I've learned as I slow down a little bit is that a lot of people are dying for depth. They're thirsty. And if you'll just lean in like a half step below the surface, you'll be shocked at what happens. And so as you begin to think about doing this thing called life groups or journey groups or whatever that looks like, as you begin to stack hands with some other people who call this place home, I want to challenge you, I want to encourage you to think about doing that with a purpose, with a mission. If the only thing that we're aiming for is getting people to say a prayer so that they experience eternity, by the way, that's a big deal. But if that's it, let me tell you where we end up with that.
okay, we end up as a bunch of people who actually believe that's it for us as well. And so we say this prayer, we make this like proclamation that we're gonna do, I believe in this. And it's really easy to just end up in this holding pattern where you're just kind of grinding out the rest of your days here on earth. And just waiting for that time you can die, punch your ticket to heaven. It's not, by the way, that's not like a real compelling vision for me. You want to know why people, if that's it, no wonder why people aren't coming in, in droves into our life groups and into our churches. We need to be offering a better version of the gospel, a more complete version of the gospel. Here's the truth. Yes, when we take that first step, when we put our belief in Jesus and in God, yes, we are given the gift of eternal life, and God has invited us to partner with Him in redeeming and restoring and the renewal of all things right here, right now. Our eternal life doesn't start when we die. Our eternal life starts the day that we make that decision to begin to follow Jesus. And if you let that sink in, it'll change the way you live the rest of your life. And if you let that sink in with the way that we live with others, it'll change the way that we do life in the church. And so that's my prayer, that this would be a place that begins to rediscover some of the key ingredients that we read about when we look at the early church. This would be a place in which people stack hands and do life together. And the life that they do together is so compelling that other people just are drawn to it. They experience that same kind of life. I'll read one last passage here as I close. It's in Hebrews 10. Let us draw near to God with a sincere heart and full assurance that faith brings, having our hearts sprinkled to cleanse us from a guilty conscience, having our bodies washed with pure water. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for He who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. Let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together. That'll be my prayer for you and for this church, especially as you renew this emphasis on doing life together. It's good to be here with you today. I'm going to be praying for you, and I just want you to know that myself and a lot of others are grateful for everything that's happened here and what's going to happen going forward. So, thanks.
Wow, that's hard to follow. That was awesome. Thanks be to God. I want to just switch gears a little bit now and have you hear from my son. And the reason I want you to hear from my son is because back in April, on a Saturday, my daughter had a wedding shower for a baby that she delivered about a month later. The baby's name is Charlie. And so at our house, on that blizzardy, remember that blizzardy Saturday in April? And then the next day we had about 50 people in church. Well, Ben and his wife came all the way up. And of course, we weren't going to hang out at this shower because it was all women, you know what I mean? So we said, we're going to go do a guy thing. So we went to B-Dubs, okay? And the meeting that I had with my son at B-Dubs, Buffalo Wild Wings, was transformational for me. And the reason it was transformational for me is he began to talk about what their church is doing with their life groups. And tears started to flow down my cheeks because I realized that as a leader, I've missed it. I've not cast an effective vision for our life groups to do what Dave was talking about today. And what we've talked about the last 3 weeks up here in the pulpit. I had failed in that, and I humbly went to God after our meeting, and I said, Lord, thank you for my son. Thank you for the vision of that church. Thank you that you're rebooting me to cast a clearer vision for our life groups. That it's not just about us getting together, experiencing life together, but that we're about reaching people that need Jesus and need to see Jesus in us. And what challenged me was what you're about to hear from him. It just set me on my heels. And after we were done, and by the way, we were there for like 2 hours, seemed like 5 minutes. And after that meeting, I just said, God, thank you for what you're doing at Family of Christ Lutheran Church. So without any further ado, I want to introduce to you my precious middle son, Ben Allman, who is on fire for Jesus Christ. Let's welcome him.
Hey, to start off, I have no idea what I said. I probably had 2 or 3 beers. I mean, right? So, but anyways, I'm not like a life group expert. I mean, Dave was an awesome presenter, right? I've been to 2. The first one sucked. It was awful. We had 4 couples in it, and it was painful to go every other week. So anyways, that one we did, and by the grace of God, we started doing it. So the way our current life group started is our pastor, he's over the top, like, hey, life group, this is how our church is formed. So you got to sign up, got to do it. So we said, all right, we'll do it. So first one we signed up for was Ezra and Nehemiah. Did anyone know the Ezra and Nehemiah story? It's not crazy interesting. They go back, they rebuild Jerusalem. So anyways, he wants us to sign up for this because we're building a new sanctuary. Thinks it'd be a good intro into giving, volunteering for the new sanctuary. So we said, all right, we'll do it. So we thought, well, how do we make a Bible study we meet once a week, we have to do probably 3 hours of homework for it. I mean, painful. It's like being in high school again. So I think, how do we make this better? And there's 5 of us that signed up for this thing. We thought, well, let's meet at a bar. That has to make it better, right? So we're Lutheran. We can have some beer and go over this stuff. It was awesome. So we do that, and it goes really well. So just 5 random families that sign up for this thing. We have a couple in their 60s, a couple couples in their 40s, and then us and another couple in their 30s. So we hit it off. Our leader for this group was an unchurched family that came to Family of Christ maybe a year ago. So we got this guy that has basically no Christian background at all leading us, and it was perfect because it made it easy for everybody, right? It was just like, hey, let's follow this guy. We'll do what he says. We go through the Bible outline, and he didn't have. He made it fun because it was just a guy going through a Bible study, and it was just so lighthearted. It was easy to connect with people. So that was a great way to start. So anyways, we get through the end of this Ezra and Nehemiah Bible study and think, well, we don't like each other. Let's just keep meeting. So what should we do? And being a good Colorado Springs conservative place, we thought, well, let's take military backgrounds and put some structure to this thing. So we say, hey, we're going to meet, we're going to make a commitment to this thing. We're going to meet once every week and see how it goes. So two weeks out of the month, we're going to do Bible studies. 1 week out of the month, we're going to do a party, just a huge party. Food, alcohol, just make it fun, right? And then another week out of the month, we're going to do community service. So it could be like a Thanksgiving food drive. We've done Christmas gifts for Army children where the parents are deployed. We've painted 5 or 6 houses at this point. So we're going to do something to serve the community. So it's not just about us. So we thought, all right, we'll give that a shot. So we start meeting about a month in. One of the families goes, hey, I got a party this next week. We're going to invite some of our neighbors. Awesome. So they invite their neighbors. Well, it turns out they like it. Well, the stream just keeps happening. So we grow from a group of 5 families a month or 2 in to 6 months in, a group of like 13 families. All right, now we're big, right? Big life group, cool life group, but big life group. So how do we bring more structure to it? So part of it is, all right, we're going to have to break off and form 2 groups, or maybe 3 groups, right? Because the goal is to somewhat keep it small. You want to be intimate, you want to share stuff with people, but at the same time, you don't want to reject or say, hey, we don't want to invite neighbors, we don't want to invite friends. We want to grow big, and we want our church to grow big. So we thought, well, how do we break up? So families, we thought would start breaking off, forming their own smaller groups, doing the same thing over and over again. Easier said than done, right? Because when you get in a group with a bunch of people, you like them. It's tough to leave. But anyway, so we're in the middle of this process now. We're probably 8 months into it, and getting to the point where we're breaking off into smaller groups, challenging, right? And it's challenging to grow when you're inviting unchurched friends, neighbors into your life. It's super hard because a lot of these people we found, they love it at first, right? They love hearing about Jesus. They love the fellowship, the friendship, the community it brings. But when you don't grow up in the church, sometimes maybe there's a lack of commitment. And so it's kind of caused a core group of life groupers to be recommitted to the thing in the sense that, hey, we're still going to love these people. They're going to show up occasionally. I mean, at first, all these new families, they started showing up every week, and they would be here every week. Well, since then, over the last 2 or 3 months, especially as summer's gone on, that hasn't happened, right? And it's easy for people to forget. So that's been one of the challenging factors that we've had for the growth side. We got this core group of people, we want to grow, we want to expand. But just know, as you grow, it's not easy at all. Like, it's super challenging. You might get frustrated with people. We got a couple Air Force colonels in there that are ready to kick people out. We know it's not the right thing to do. But you might get frustrated at some point with a lack of commitment. That doesn't mean you don't do it, right? You just follow those people along. And remember, a year ago, 6 months ago, these people didn't really know anything about Jesus, about the church, right? So you kind of got to be along for the ride and help guide them along the way. But it can definitely be challenging. One of the things we realized within the last 4 months, if we want to keep growing as we break up, hey, it's going to be tough. So how do you do that in a way where you're leaving some of these people you form really deep, good relationships with, right? So now we still meet once a week with these new groups, but we're also trying to meet, once a month with some of the other core group. And that's tough, because sometimes you like that core group more than you like your new group, right? But it's the same way in church. Sometimes you just like a certain group, but I don't know that's the best way to go about it. So we're trying to figure out just a good way to still get together as community, as people who started this thing, who built strong relationships with, but also not forget, hey, our mission isn't to be just focused on each other, but our mission is to focus on growing the church, reaching people for Christ. Like I said, easier said than done. But some cool things happen with it, right? We're growing as a church, just built a new sanctuary. The church is kind of booming. And it's cool that it's booming because of life groups, right? And it's people reaching their neighbors, reaching their coworkers, just being there for them, inviting them in. I think it's easy to have a party, right? Easy to have alcohol, easy to have a bunch of food, and just get to know people. No time limits on it, no constraints, just opening the doors to your house. I mean, pretty basic thing. And I'm not an extrovert by any means, but if you get a few beers in me, I'll start talking to a lot of people, right? And I loosen up, and it really does make it easy. But the focus is, hey, I don't want to be lazy. I don't want to be a lazy Christian. I don't want to be self-serving. I don't want to stay in the same group for 10, 15 years and not reach the lost. Okay? It's great that you do have that close, tight-knit group of friends. I don't want you guys to have to give that up. But at the same time, our pastor's been very focused. Hey, this isn't about just being comfortable, right? We don't want to be comfortable Christians. We want to be energetic, outgoing Christians that love Jesus and want to tell other people about him. And it's been pretty cool. We've had some awesome experiences reaching people that otherwise wouldn't have known about him. And it all started by opening your house up, inviting your neighbors, inviting coworkers to just come and get to know you. now we're a pretty cool group of people. So I mean, once people experience it, oftentimes they want to be part of it, right? Because I think similar to what Dave said, people long for that. A lot of people don't have it, right? They might be busy. They might be, taking their kids to soccer practice, go, get home, shut the garage, and call it good. But like he said, once you get down deeper to the core of it, I think most people long for community, long for relationships. So I challenge you to be outgoing with it, to reach your neighbors, to reach your coworkers, to not be comfortable. Maybe you're a group of 4, maybe you take 2 couples and you start a new group, right? Or maybe you just start inviting other people into your group until you're big enough where it's like, hey, we don't have a choice. If we want to do a good job and keep being effective, we got to split up. We got to keep growing. We got to multiply. Kind of fun to think about, right? But also challenging and scary when you're comfortable getting deep and real with people and then inviting other people in that you have minimal relationships with and being real with them as well. But we've had some good experiences with that in the sense that, hey, you get in depth with people and you show non-Christians, yeah, I'm a Christian, but I still struggle with this, still going through it, right? And it just makes you that much real, that much more vulnerable, more open to people. And just put yourself out there, but it can be pretty rewarding too. People get to know, hey, just because you're a Christian, you don't have it all figured out, but we're still reaching the same goal, going towards the same goal, trying to know Christ better, get to know Jesus better, and reach the lost. So, Pops, I don't know if there's anything else I want to say.
Thank you so much, bro. Any questions for Ben before he heads back to the Springs? By the way, in about 15 minutes, I'm heading to the airport to preach at my son-in-law's installation down in Queen Creek, Arizona. I'm preaching at that this afternoon, so I'm pretty excited about that. They used to be in Aurora at Cross of Christ Lutheran Church. He recently took the call to that church down in Queen Creek, so I'm preaching at his installation this afternoon at 4:30. So I'm excited about that. Any questions? Queen Creek. Oh, I'm sorry, Southeast. Southeast Phoenix. So it's about 15 minutes from where my son is, in Gilbert, Arizona. So any questions for Ben? South, yes. Yes.
What role did the Air Force Colonel play in organization structure? So we have great leadership. I'm a good follower, can be a good leader at times, but the Air Force colonels, married couple, they provided leadership. I think it's essential that you have good leadership, good planning, good email structure. We get emails from them probably 2 or 3 times a week. And they're colonels, right? They'll call you out. They'll tell you like it is. You don't have to worry about it. And so hopefully that's been a huge blessing for our group because they just provide a sense of maturity, a sense of structure that we've been really, really blessed to have. But yeah, they set up we'll talk about different service events that we want to do, but they'll coordinate, hey, this is where we're meeting at, this is where we're doing it. This is the next Bible study. We're having it at somebody's house. We rotate houses so no one gets burned out on hosting, especially when we all show up right now. It's, like I said, it's 12 to 14 families, so it can get crazy fast. So we rotate that around, but they just provided some leadership, and they're new to it themselves. They've been Christians for 18 months. Yeah. We're in the process of doing it right now. So the process, we really 5 couples that started it out. So we're taking 2, and they're taking some of the people that they brought into it, and doing their own thing, and then the other half is doing breaking off and doing their own. We're right in the middle of it, so it's still a sticky situation. Like I said, I don't know if there's a great way to do it. It's tough. Thankfully, we've only been together right about a year, but
man, I'm sure it's harder the longer you've been together, right? To do it well and to still maintain those relationships that you've grown and cherished for 10, 15 years, but then say, hey, we're just going to meet maybe once a month, or maybe we'll have you guys over on Friday night, still get together, but still be mission-minded. And, you know, I don't think you can be a crazy effective life group if you're bigger. I think our best intimacy as a life group was when we first started, when we had 4 to 5 families. Since we've gotten bigger, it's become tough because more people show up, more people are flaky when you get bigger. It's easier for someone to say, I just don't want to go this week, right? There's not that sense of commitment, and we're looking for commitment, right? It's just once a week, and if we can't go, it better be a stinking good reason. So, I mean, we've asked for people, hey, if you have soccer practice every night, whatever, we try and be flexible. We've switched meeting nights, you know, from Thursday to a Sunday to back to a Thursday, and now we're meeting on Friday. So we try to be flexible to accommodate everybody's schedule, but it's tough. So that being said, it's easier when you're that 4 to 5 group, or 4 to 5 people in a group, just to make schedules work, right? And so we've known as we've grown, hey, this probably isn't the most effective way. And as we brought in those new people, as we stay big, we aren't getting them into the Word as much as we would like. We aren't helping grow their faith in Christ, and so that's something that we need to do. So we know by getting smaller, we're going to be able to do that. Hopefully with the same goal of, hey, another year and a half, that group of 4 to 5, all of a sudden we're 8 to 10 again, and we got to do the same thing.
Do you select Bibles and prepare Bible study, or you just pick Bible, go through the Bible, and then go through it for
Right now, we do easy Bible studies. We started with Ezra and Nehemiah, so it left a bad taste in everybody's mouth because it's super intense. And especially for people where people were at in their faith life, it was probably too much. But now we do things like Andy Stanley. We just finished one on Big Church by him. Like, hey, we don't want to be a small church. We want to be a big church. And you hear some people say, well, I don't want to be part of a big church. Well, dang it, why not, right? God calls us to reach a lot. So we want to be a big church. We want to have small life groups within a church, and we want to have closeness with people. But doggone it, we better be reaching as many people as we possibly can. Otherwise, we're being lazy, right? It's not good. We're doing one right now by Matt Chandler, but these are easy Bible studies. Most of them are film Bible studies. So we'll watch the pastor give a sermon, maybe 25, 30 minutes, and it's followed up by maybe another 15, 20 minutes of questions and discussions, just to kind of engage people more. But with us reaching a lot of non-Christian people, this has been an easy way for us to do it. It's pretty relaxed. They're good speakers, so it makes it more comfortable for the people. Whereas if you're a non-Christian, all of a sudden you say, hey, you want to come to my Bible study? Well, here's 2.5 hours of homework to do. That's a little daunting for people, right? And so this has made it easy. And hopefully as we go on and those people develop stronger roots, they dive into the Word more and that sort of thing.
I have some good friends that live in Colorado, so specifically Kane.
Yeah. I'm sure we do. I would say probably 15 to 20% of our church lives out that Falcon Payton area. So it'd just be a matter of calling up Pastor Dyer, the church secretary. She could probably hook them up with something, some groups out there. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Our church is kind of spread out too. It's not easy. I mean, we're based in South Monument, but we have members from Fountain all the way to Castle Park. So try and get a life group that's somewhat close makes it easier. Oh, younger children. So we were blessed. When we started, like I said, it was kind of a cross-generation thing. We had people in their 60s all the way to their late 20s. Thankfully, 2 or 3 of the families that are in their 40s, 50s have high school daughters babysit the younger kids, and that's made it huge. So we always meet at somebody's house where we have a spot for the kids. Most of the time the kids go down in the basement, hang out, just play, while the adults kind of socialize and stuff like that. But we lucked out. I'm a huge fan though of if you're in a life group and it's all people in their 50s or all people in their 60s, try and get out of that mold, right? Because younger people need the leadership of the older generations. We've been so thankful to have people in their 50s and 60s and 40s with their wisdom, right? Because we got a couple, 2 or 3 families that are younger, and it's been nice to have that. And they've just been a great support. Like my wife and I are going through a busy time, where some of those older families, they don't have quite as much going on, so they'll help out with the kids occasionally. I mean, it's truly become doing life together. Sometimes they bring us some meals every visit. It's been a pretty cool thing to see.
I heard part of what you're saying. I can imagine the people in the back. I had to move up to hear what you were saying.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So that is why I'm speaking.
Can you guys hear back there, Sherry? You can hear? Okay.
Maybe it's not here.
I'll get it closer to my mouth here.
All right, let's give him a hand again. Yeah, there's a couple of concluding thoughts I want to share with you. I went to a conference down in Cherry Hills about a week and a half ago. And Andy Stanley and Craig Rochelle were speakers. They are foremost speakers in the country, really, especially on leadership. And one of the things I got from that is it's better to sit in circles than in rows. We all get that, don't we? I mean, one of the disadvantages for me as a proclaimer of the word is to look at you guys sitting in these rows. You can't ask questions. You can't really relate. I encourage you to take notes just to remain focused, blah, blah, blah. It's better to sit in circles than in rows. Here's the second one. Rivers are better than ponds. What does that mean? Ponds get stagnant. Rivers are alive. Again, I have allowed our life groups to be, in a way, stagnant. And we want as many people as possible to come to know Jesus. Amen? And that's our mission statement. And it has to start with us as life group leaders. We have to cast this vision to our life group folks saying, we're not just here for us. The last thing, so I'm sitting there at B-Dubs, he shared all this stuff with me, and I said to him, kind of representing, isn't it tough to kind of break off and kind of split and start a new group? Isn't that hard when you've been together for so long? And do you know what he said? This is so Ben Allman. He said, Dad, doesn't the Great Commission trump everything? Yes, it does. Yes, you're right. Yes. I mean, and really, folks, I love what he said too. That sometimes we say, well, we've been together for so long, you can still get together socially. Absolutely. But if our church is really about reaching the lost with the love of Jesus, it has to start with our life groups. So I just pray God's blessing. That's the rebooting of our vision for life groups. And last thing, by the way, this is such a praise the Lord report. Last year, we did an all-in series where we said, everybody studying the Word all at once. We're all going to be doing the same thing. We had about 20 people participating. Do you know how many people signed up for journey groups for this all-in series beginning on September 18th? Do you know how many? 250. Praise be to God. Now that includes folks who are already in life groups. But we've cast that vision for the last 2 weeks. Hey, I want everybody in, everybody doing this for the next 6 weeks together. And then Christine and Polly and I will sit down and say, okay, after this series, where do we want our life groups to be? So I'm very, very thankful for that. And praise God for that. All right. Let's, one last thing. Because we have so many people that have signed up for journey groups beginning on September 18th, We need leaders. Is that right, Christine? So if you would be willing to say, I've been in our life group for a long time, I know the drill, I know what it's all about, we'll train you. I'll have a training session in the next couple of weeks. I'm not sure when it's going to be, but it'll be an evening. I'll train you to show you exactly how to do this. So if you would be willing, by the power of the Holy Spirit, to say, yes, I'm willing to be a journey group leader. I'm willing to break off from my life group for 6 weeks and be a leader, because we need leaders for these groups. If you're willing to do that, I would be most appreciative, but even more importantly, you would be blessing the body of Christ to your peace in this community. And how many leaders do we need, Christine? As many as we can get. So if the Holy Spirit is tugging on your heart saying, yep, I'm in, I'm willing to lead a group of folks, Christine will take your name and sign you up, and then you'll get information from there on. Yes, Rachel. No, not too late to sign up for a journey group. Absolutely not. Yeah, so this is what the Lord has done with me. He's kind of rebooted my vision. And I thank God for that conversation I had with my son. And now you know why. Let's have a word of prayer. Father, thank you so much for this time together. Thank you for Dave, who did such an outstanding job of kind of reiterating what Acts chapter 2 and 3 and 4 is all about. That the early church just exploded with growth, not because they were knocking on doors or sharing the gospel or leading people in the sinner's prayer, but they just radiated, reflected the love of Christ so powerfully. People around them said, I want that. I want in. I need that. My life doesn't have purpose or meaning, significance. I don't know where I'm going to spend eternity. God, I pray for the same revitalization upon Peace Lutheran Church, that you would just take this group of people, 120 or so, which is an interesting number, Lord, because that's what the early church began with. That you would take this group of people here today and cause our church to just grow. And grow some more, and grow some more, and grow some more. Because we want to see people who currently, their permanent address is hell. To have their permanent address is heaven. Jesus, just anoint our church, and anoint our journey groups, and anoint our life groups, and anoint the vision of this church, reaching our community with Christ in such a powerful way that 2 years from now, my vision, 750 of worship, 2018, might be realized and then some. Because God, we've got a story to share. We've got a message to tell, and people need to hear it, and they need to see it in tangible ways in us. So reboot our life groups, God. Thank you for Dave, and thank you for Ben, who helped, hopefully, by the power of the Holy Spirit, to do just that today. In the precious name of you, Lord Jesus, we pray all these things. Amen.
Amen.
Point.